Hey, everybody! Welcome to another show, another DIY hydroponics show from Aero-Gro. My name is Andrew. I'm the owner of Aero-Gro and the host of this show. It's a weekly show, Wednesdays at 8 o'clock, for those who are interested in hydroponic growing, in hydroponics, aeroponics, all kinds of indoor growing. We might even someday venture into aquaponics, but I haven't decided on that yet. I'm not sure how I would film that. For now, we're talking about hydroponics, and tonight actually it's a mulligan. It's a redo of last week's show because for some reason, I don't know exactly what happened, but about 5 minutes before the show was supposed to go live, I had a massive equipment failure. Everything went down. I tried to reboot it and get it back up and going, but it didn't work, obviously. So here we are again. This is the redo, and hopefully tonight I'll be covering some of the things that can go wrong when you get into hydroponics. And five top mistakes and 7 top hazards is literally the title of this show, this episode. And I know from your comments that there are other things going on that you want to know about. I was reading the comments in the last few days, and from what I gather, let me take a look here. You guys want to be checking out some real demonstrations. You want to see how some of this high pressure system works, like this system that I have behind me, how that works. And I hear you. And also you said, one of you was commenting on, would it be possible to hook up more than one spray nozzle at a time to one of those pumps that you were showing us? And I am more than willing to demonstrate all of that on camera, and that's what we're going to do. In fact, 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from tonight, we'll be having a show where I'll be doing a live demonstration of a bunch of different equipment. We're going to be looking at, let me just show you really quickly. We're going to be looking at some stainless steel spray nozzles, high pressure, relatively high pressure. We're talking about 40 to 50 pounds per square inch. They can go higher than that, but this is about 40 to 50 PSI sprayer. Another one here that's made out of ceramic. When these are the latest ones on the market, these are absolutely stunning the way that these work. And I've compared these to airbrushes before. Literally, they look a little bit like an airbrush if you've ever seen an airbrush, but they work very much like one with atomization. It's just so incredible. I've never seen anything like it. So I'll demonstrate that on camera. And also a bunch of these small spray nozzles. See if the camera focuses there. 180 degree nozzles, 360 degree nozzles, all kinds of different nozzles, and we will test them under a variety of conditions using a variety of air pressures and pump pressures, and we'll find out what's what. And you can see it on camera and decide for yourself, yes, that'll work for me at home, or no, that's a little too much pressure, too much equipment, too much setup, whatever it happens to be. You'll see everything. I'll show you a cross section and we'll cover it all so you can decide for yourself. So that'll be pretty dramatic. And that'll be 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today. I'm just going to turn off this fan over here. I'm getting a lot of noise. Give me 2 seconds. Yeah, that should be a little bit better. Okay, I was getting a lot of fan noise there. It is very, very hot in the studio right now. I have lights all over the place, and it gets mighty warm down here. It's okay for the plants. It's not so great for me. So anyway, back to what we were going to talk about tonight. So the top 5 mistakes and 7 top hazards that people run into when they're just getting going, and well, not just getting going. These are mistakes that can happen at any time by anybody, regardless of skill level. And they're things to keep an eye out for, basically, is what it's about. Now, let me show you this list. I do have this somewhat organized tonight. There we go. Whoops. Oh, I gotta send this over to you. Sorry about that. Oops. Okay, if you can hear me now, system audio dropped out a second ago, I'm told. Let me just switch over to here and see what's going on with my audio. Let me see if I get it back. Give me 1 second. 1, 2, 1, 2. There it is. Okay, audio's back in. All right, I think we're okay. Sorry about that. Where the heck was I? So I had, I believe, started to talk about pH. So the importance of pH and testing with a 5-in-1 meter, and that pH is not the type of thing that'll take care of itself. I talked about that. And also how, depending on your, I think this may be where I lost the audio, depending on your source water, if your source water, for example, is reverse osmosis like ours, sometimes that'll actually come in a little bit high. Ours comes in testing at about 7.0, 7.2. And then I put in so I have 7.2 for my pH of the water, just a gallon of reverse osmosis water sitting in a container. That tests at, let's say, 7.2. Okay. Then I put it on the mixer, the magnetic mixer, and I add part A and part B of my nutrient solution. Okay. And then I put the meter in and I test it again. Now the pH has dropped way, way down to about 4 to 4.5. Sometimes it's actually lower than that. I've seen it in the 3s before. So very, very acidic. And at that point, and we're not even done at that point, sometimes I'll add some root enhancer, some root growth stimulator, and things like that. All these things affect the pH. So at the very end, when I'm all finished adding everything to that witch's brew of a nutrient solution, I'll then go ahead and test it again. And wherever I am, I'll decide how much pH up, usually for me it's pH up, usually pH up or pH down I need to get it to 6.0. And then with it still mixing in the magnetic stir, I'll add the pH up and I'll observe the meter as it rises until I get to the 6.0. And at that point, I have the perfectly mixed solution. And that's not to say that nothing can happen. I mean, you get that perfectly mixed solution, you add it to your nutrient tank, and then a few days later, you get a huge swing in the pH. Why is that? Well, because the plant's pulling nutrients from the solution actually changes the structure of the solution itself, changes the pH of the solution. So as the plants pull nutrients, that's a good thing. But it changes the pH, you have to correct that. And that can be done a couple of different ways. And we did talk about that actually in a previous video, but I just wanted to mention very quickly again that one of the best ways I've ever found to regulate pH in a system as a standalone unit, something you just set it and forget it for the most part, is this unit here called the Taurus Hydro. And the Taurus Hydro it's just one of my favorite things. This is, and I know I covered this in another video, but I am just going to go through this really quickly again, but I want to show you this. Inside here is a little satchel of a mysterious compound of some sort. I don't know what it is. I'm sure it's protected by a patent, but whatever's in this little satchel, and then that's inside of a basket, whatever's in that satchel, it corrects the pH of the nutrient solution as the nutrient solution is flowing from one end to the next. So it goes into one end, goes up here, travels past the little satchel of mystery magical chemical, and then comes out the other end perfectly pH balanced. And the only caveat to that that I did mention in another video was that when you're first setting up the system, you want to correct the pH first. So you get your nutrient solution set up, you get this set up and with your pump, and you're all ready to go, and you've got your pH corrected and balanced to 6.0. That's the point where you launch it and let this take over. What you don't want to do is you don't want to just mix up your nutrient solution, not correct the pH, throw it into service, and send that very low or very high pH nutrient solution through this. Simply because you're shortening the lifespan of the satchel of mystery magical compound that's inside here. And why do that if you don't have to? If you bring it up to balanced, you will improve the length of the little satchel, and also it'll happen faster because it'll take time for this to correct the pH. But if you correct it using pH up or down, and then you let this take over, everything's fine. And from my experience, that is true. If you balance it and then let it take over, everything seems to be fine. And they do not guarantee, but they say in their literature, their marketing materials, that it will maintain, actually I have it right here, it will maintain a balance between 5.7 and 6.5. It says perfect pH will generally auto-balance to 5.7 to 6.5, though most systems will be in the range of 5.8 to 6.2, an even tighter range is what they're saying. So they're saying, yeah, that's what you can expect, but usually performance is even better than that. And that, like I said, oh no, you didn't see the last video. The equipment crashed. In that video, I was mentioning, in the video you didn't see, I was mentioning how that is true. I have found that this Taurus Hydro unit does what it says. It maintains the pH within a very tight tolerance. And I'm happy to say this is a great product. It's not inexpensive. I believe this was around $200 for the whole kit, but it is amazing. And it's supposed to be able to handle a 35-gallon nutrient tank for, I believe it was estimated to be 9 months to a year before you have to replace the little satchel inside, which is not as expensive. I believe the little satchels, I'm guessing here, but I believe it's like $20 or $30 for a replacement satchel. And that's like, according to the directions, if that's a 35-gallon nutrient tank, you'll be doing that about once a year. But here's the thing. With the nutrient tanks in a typical home, the ones like we're using here for these installations, these are 5 gallons. So the amount, and the pump, the way that I do it anyway, is I run the pump only periodically to recycle the water that's in the nutrient tank through this periodically. It's an independent system. And doing that, I don't even know how long this would last, because you're talking about a 5-gallon tank with only periodic cycling. It could last years, literally. But I don't think I would ever do that. I would tend to lean on the side that of a caution and replace the satchel once a year, just as a matter of good practice, good standards and practices. But so far, I've used this almost a year, and it looks brand new. I don't know if that means it is as good as brand new and functions and performs as well as brand new, but it certainly looks okay. But I will be actually replacing this satchel soon. But I want to pass that product recommendation on, and I'm not paid by that company. I'm endorsing it because it's a good product. And okay, so that's one way to maintain it. The other way, obviously, is to check daily, to check your, let's go back to our testing audio. Okay, the audio is bad. Why does the audio keep going out? That's very strange. Okay, I don't know why the audio keeps going out. I apologize for that. It looks like we're back again. Let me go back to photos. Okay, audio is still on. All right, it's not that. Okay, I don't know why that's going out. That's a bit strange. Okay, anyway. Moving right along, I will keep an eye on that audio to make sure it's okay. Oh, let's see, we've got, oh, geez, the chat is going wild. I didn't even realize it. Let me take a look at this. Audio just dropped out, lost it. All good, back on, blah, 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 video, big sign of room saying, did you turn the system back on? Yeah, The list that causes the yeah, the list that causes the issues. I think it may be. I don't know. Let me see here. Am I still on? Yeah, I'm still on. Yeah, that list is troublesome though. Let's see here. Yeah, OBS changes audio source. Yeah. It is. I think it is an OBS thing for sure. It's dropping in and out. Shoot. Okay. Well, I'm just going to keep going as usual, and if it drops out again, let me know. What I will do is I'll just carry on here. Are you giving the app with the list priority? Oh, well, the list is actually, it's embedded right in ABS. I've got it in there as a slide, as a media source. So that's, yeah, okay. So moving on to, let's see here. Mistake number 2, buying cheap, incorrect, or not enough lighting. So here's the bottom line, Here's the bottom line on that. The lighting is one of the most important parts of the setup, obviously, and it's the part that people tend to go a little bit cheap on sometimes because they do tend to be expensive. I get that. And it's not only, how do I say this? I'm trying to be as polite as I can, but out of all the equipment you're ever going to buy for hydroponics, the one thing that you really want to spend your money on, in my opinion, is the lighting. The reason for that is it's simple economics, really. It's, first of all, it's one of the most important linchpins in the entire process. If the lighting is incorrect, your plants will not do well. If the lighting's correct, they'll do much better. It'll make up for a lot of other errors that you'll probably be making along the way. I know I do. And the other thing is that the money that you're spending up front on LED lighting is typically going towards higher quality LED lights, the little actual lights themselves. There are hundreds and sometimes thousands of those little LED lights inside of a panel. But those, as I've talked about before, should be from a major manufacturer, LG, Samsung, Panasonic, manufacturers like that who produce very, very high quality LEDs. And if your light panel is advertised as having those high quality LEDs, then the chances are the quality of light will be better over time. The color of the light will be more stable over time. The balance of the colors, if you go for a better manufacturer of the LED panels, the balance of the red and blue and the color spectrum will be much better from a higher end manufacturer. So if you spend several $100s, let's say, I mean, I'm not, I don't have one in front of me to show you, but if you were talking about like a 4-foot, see, I can't start comparing because there's so many variables. Expect is for a decent light to light up a 2x4x5 tent, a 4-foot wide by 2-foot deep by 5-foot high tent, let's say. For example, a light to light that up should be $200+ for a decent one. That's a very general statement, and please don't go crazy thinking that's a pricing structure you can hang your hat on. It's not, but the lighting gets more expensive as it gets higher quality, obviously, but that is where you want to spend your money. So look for the major name brands for the LEDs. Look for the waterproof ratings on those light panels. Look for all metal construction, aluminum housing construction. Look for a balance of red and blue LEDs. Look for a really good spread pattern of the light, which should be diagrammed out pretty well. They will also give you an output, a light output, and we're not going to talk about par value and lumen output and all that today, but that's for another video. But we will talk about that. But you obviously at that point you're price comparing if everything else is equal, they're all great LEDs, metal housings, all other factors being equal, the final factor really is the light output. Then that's how I would say, should choose your lighting. That's how I've chosen lighting in the past. It's never failed me. The lighting that I have now running here has never failed. And now I should knock on wood when I say that, but it's good quality. I knew that up front. I knew I was spending money on something quality, and I expected it to work well, and it did. It has. They've worked really well. And I will go through some of the manufacturers of lighting at some point. If you'd like me to, I'll go down some of the ones that I think are a little bit better. Some of those you might want to avoid. Let me know in the comments if you want to have a video about that. So lighting is something to spend the money on. That's where you want to not be cheap. And mistake number 3 is using the wrong nutrients or preparing incorrectly. Wrong nutrients. What I was really getting at when I say the word wrong there is, okay, you can get something like this from Amazon, right? BioThrive Grow. I use this on the houseplants here, right? I mix a little of this in a gallon of water. The instructions are on the back. It's like a tablespoon and I don't know, what is it? What is it? 2 teaspoons per gallon of water with every watering. Or for a heavy feeding, add 4 teaspoons of BioThrive per every gallon of water. Okay, great. For plants, potted plants, house plants. I even use this on the garden sometimes. Things like that, the outdoor garden, things like that. Soil-based plants. Now, this is a product that is designed also potentially to be used for hydroponics. There are instructions on the back. They're very basic. They say, you can tell by probably my voice where I'm going with this. I'm going to a dark place where I'm telling you to avoid something. All right. So yeah. All right. This is an organic. Let me take it from the top to the bottom here. This is an organic product. If I open this bottle and smell it right now, I'll gag and probably lose dinner on camera. It's really nasty. It's got seaweed in it. It has beet vinasse. It's got all kinds of weird stuff. All kinds of like molasses, alfalfa meal, all kinds of organics in it, right? It's great for plants. But I'm going to tell you this. In an aeroponic or hydroponic situation, products like this that are organic and full of organics, and they try to stabilize it as much as they can, but these products can cause you problems. They can cause an overgrowth of the wrong bacteria if the temperature is not right or if the aeration is not right. They're troublesome. If you have a system that's highly tuned, and we can get into that later too, yes, there's a place for organics. In fact, one of the goals of my company is to explore organic options within hydroponics and aeroponics. That was one of the reasons I got into this. So I'm still exploring it myself, but right now I wouldn't recommend it. I would say stick with AB nutrient salts. They are proven, they work great, they're clean, they're great. They're easy to mix, they're easy to work with, they're easy to store, they're stable. AB, I don't have a bottle right here, but yeah, I've talked about them in other videos. The AB nutrients that are mixed, usually in equal parts, but not always. Sometimes the ratios change. But that's the way to go, in my opinion, for hydroponics and aeroponics at the moment. There may be some organic options available in the future that are good and stable and well proven. I hope to make some of them. But right now, stick to the AB. That would be my advice. So moving on to, related to that. Okay, yes, no, before I move on. First, before I move on, where's my beer? It's good stuff, by the way. It's called Sweet Baby Jesus. Yeah, it's really good. It's a porter, a chocolate peanut butter porter. All right. So before we move on from that, I just want to mention again that when preparing the nutrient solution, obviously the meter is your best friend. 5-in-1 meter is your best friend. Aero-Gro does sell. I do sell a meter. You don't have to buy my meter. You just have, I think you should have a meter is my bottom line. So get yourself a meter, whether it's from me or somebody else. Here's another thing. The meter, aside from being your best friend, it can be used in a couple different ways. There are some of you I know who are using the parts per million scale to measure your nutrient solution. There are those who are using the microsiemens per centimeter system. Well, really quickly, I'm going to explain the difference. The meter always measures resistance of the water, the resistance of the water. So there are two metal probes on the bottom of this meter, and you stick this in the water, and the electricity travels between the probes. And the ability for the electricity to travel between the probes determines what the resistance level of that water is. And that's what the meter is determining. From that initial resistance reading, it then can produce a parts per million number, or a total dissolved solids number, which is measured in parts per million, or a microsiemens per centimeter number, which is a direct representation of the resistance reading, because resistance itself is measured in microsiemens per centimeter. So that's the original reading. I prefer always to work in microsiemens per centimeter, because then it doesn't matter whose meter you're using around the world, because the scales can be different. By the way, the TDS scale can be different if you're in the Far East than it is in the United States or from Western Europe. Bet you didn't know that. So if you're using a meter that you're unfamiliar with, the scale that you're expecting it to have may not be the one it has for TDS, for parts per million, which is why if you stick with microsiemens per centimeter, you cannot go wrong, because everywhere around the world, microsiemens per centimeter is a standard measurement. It's a way of measuring resistance, and that's what this meter will also measure. But you can switch between the modes. You can be in microsiemens per centimeter mode and then switch over to TDS mode, and then you can go into salt percentage mode, which is measuring the exact same way. It's based on the resistance. And yeah, that's how that works. So yeah, really, I mean, it is your best friend. It's going to save you time. It's going to create accuracy in your experience and more pleasurable, because you know it's accurate and you can rely on it. Highly recommended. Okay, that's what I have to say about nutrients. Let me just check to make sure my audio is good. Yep, audio is good. All right. Let's see here. Hey, everybody. I'm just chatting something here. There we go. All right. Just wanted to say hi to you guys. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, number 4, very, very important. Incorrect, aggressive, or incomplete sanitation. Probably the most important thing is sanitation. And I mean, I can't overstate it. Everything that you work on with hydroponics, aeroponics should be clean. And you should be clean while you're doing it. Your hands should be clean. The area you're working in should be clean. Now, I'm not talking crazy levels of clean like laboratory. Not like that. I'm just talking about it should be relatively sterile, clean environment with not a lot of stuff hanging out, not a lot of dead vegetable matter or food or anything like that. You just don't want those things around your grow space. The reason being is very simple. Anything that makes it into the nutrient solution is going to decay. And when it decays, it could lead to problems. You could get different conditions like root rot, which is actually called Pythium. That's the literal name for root rot is Pythium, caused by the Pythium microorganism. And then you have to kill it. Then you have to take measures to eradicate that. And that just gets to be a hassle, and it gets messy itself. So the best way to avoid problems is to keep it clean. How do you do that? You do that by using 3% hydrogen peroxide, this stuff. And this you can get by the case from Amazon. You can, you can get it by the case. You can get it by the single bottle, by the 6-pack. You can get it a bunch of different ways. But the point being that you're going to want to use this all the time for cleaning. And this is the 3% USP. Make sure it's 3%, because everything I'm about to tell you is based on using the 3%. It does come in higher percentages, and those can be a bit tricky to work with. They're very concentrated, the other types. But this type is the kind you find on the drugstore shelf at the CVS or Walmart, Target, wherever, grocery store. And this will work great. What I do is when I'm cleaning, hydroponics, I'm wondering if it's going to work instead of outdoor sealed environment hydroponics. I'll get back to you, cloud system, if it's going to work outside. I was just considering running a project based on what you're talking about. Anyway, let me get back to this. Hydrogen peroxide, 3% is what you want to use. And what I do when I'm cleaning the equipment, for example, I'll take a sponge, I'll wet the sponge under some distilled water. I'll take some hydrogen peroxide, pour it onto the sponge, just get it wet with both water and hydrogen peroxide, and then wipe down everything you need to wipe down. And keep it fresh, keep pouring fresh hydrogen peroxide on there, and as you work in water, keep it diluted a little bit, and just wipe everything down. When I am disinfecting something, like for example, when I tear apart a garden and I take all the baskets apart and I throw them in a bowl, and I want to disinfect those plastic baskets because I'm going to reuse those, right? So I put them in the bowl, I fill the bowl with water, and then I'll put in a good cup or cup and a half of, up to like a half a bottle of this into the bowl full of parts that I want to sterilize. And then I let them sit for a good hour or so. And then I rinse them off under clean water, put them on a towel to dry. That's how I disinfect. When I have what looks to be Pythium root rot starting in a system, so I notice that the roots are kind of brownish, and you know what, let me show you this. Test, test. Oh, there it comes back. Okay. Oh, boy, I see what's going on here. All right. I think I figured out the audio problem. Sorry about that. Okay, audio's back. Yeah, I figured out the audio. Okay. Yeah, so there's a crazy audio problem going on. I can't show you the photos. Shoot and holler. You know what? Give me for like 15 seconds. I want to try to add the microphone back in so I can show you some photos here because it's kind of important. Hold on. Okay, how's it? Yes, now we have it. Okay. Now we have it. Yes, all right. Now we have audio and Pythium root rot. Awesome, this is a good day. Root rot and audio. Sweet. Okay, so Pythium root rot. I don't know where the audio dropped out, so I'm just gonna cover a little bit of that ground again. So Pythium root rot, very bad stuff. You don't want to see this, and if you do see it, the way you can treat it with this 3% hydrogen peroxide is by mixing 1 part hydrogen peroxide to 2 parts water, and that is how you can treat the root rot. You can just take the whole plant root ball and dip it in that 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 solution, 1 part hydrogen peroxide to 2 parts, 1 part hydrogen peroxide to 2 parts water. Dip the roots in that, let it sit for about an hour, and then put it back in the a clean batch of nutrient solution. After, obviously, during that hour, what are you doing? During that hour, you are disinfecting your container, your bucket, or whatever your nutrient solution or your root ball is normally in. Disinfect that, and then when your roots have sat in that solution for about an hour, take them and put them back in the fresh nutrient solution. It should be fine. I've had that work for many situations. I've almost never lost a plant due to root rot. Almost never. I have lost some. That's not fair to say never, but yeah, it works really well. Let me just jump back to the comments here. Let's see though. Oh, you guys are talking about the audio stuff I'm going through. Yeah, it's really annoying. I know. Sorry about that. Yeah. So let's see here. Where are we? We are at. Oh yeah. Another thing I want to mention about Pythium root rot is that. Well, you know what? Let me get this picture off of here. This is really ugly. We're just gonna go. Boom, right there. Okay, that's a little better. The other thing I want to mention about Pythium root rot is that it feeds or it takes advantage of already weakened plants. So if your plants are in good shape and they're strong, you have much less to worry about as far as root rot. If root rot is becoming a problem, you need to look at other things. You could solve the root rot that time, but you may still have a chronic condition existing in your system, which is making root rot a pervasive issue. And it could be the introduction of, like I was talking about earlier, some dirt or food material or rotten leaf material or whatever it may be, dirty hands, working on your system with dirty hands, pets shedding fur around the system, or certainly a dog licking something on the system. Any of these things could lead to a contamination in the system, which would then have to be remedied. So definitely better to prevent it. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, as, who was that? Ben Franklin said that, yeah. Let's see. Also, very important. Actually, the reason I really wanted to mention this is if you want to prevent root rot, this is what you do. Always use a tablespoon of hydrogen peroxide per gallon of your nutrient solution. So if your nutrient solution is 5 gallons, use 5 tablespoons of this in it. And that will act as a preventive measure, and it goes a long way to preventing root rot. In fact, let me show you the results of using that regularly. Still have audio? Yep, still have audio. Let me show you the result of using that regularly when you're being very diligent and using hydrogen peroxide. You can expect, whoops, not that. Hold on. You can expect that. Check out those beautiful roots. That was part of the high pressure aeroponic system that I'll be showing you in 2 weeks. And these roots were unbelievable. And yeah, that's what you can expect. They should be nice and bright and happy looking and very full like that. And if that's what's going on, you're on the right track. However, if it looks more like that, then you probably need the hydrogen peroxide. So there you go. Hopefully that's helpful. So 1 tablespoon per gallon will make your life much easier and much more successful, at least the growing part of your life. Hazard, sorry. Complete sanitation. Oh, sorry, jumped right to hazards from mistakes. Mistake number 5 was incorrect timing or cycling intervals. That's the last of the mistakes. Incorrect timing, real quick, I'm going to go over that. Here's what happens. If you have an aeroponic system and yeah, it can be ebb and flow. It could be any of the hydroponic systems, really. If your timing intervals are not set correctly, then the roots essentially are doing the same thing as just sitting in water. If you're spraying the roots once a minute, you might as well just be spraying them the entire time, is kind of the bottom line. And if you're spraying them the entire time, you basically should just dunk them into a vessel of water and call it a day. It really comes down to, hydroponics really comes down to that interval in between waterings. So you flush the roots, then you let the roots drain, let them partially dry, flood and partially dry. And when I say dry, take that with a grain of salt. You know what I'm saying. There's an interval in between waterings where the roots are not being exposed such that they will not start to rot or decompose. And if you get that cycling wrong, your plants could suffer. They could be stressed. In the worst case scenario, you could lose them, but they would definitely be stressed. And they may not grow as fast, as full, as healthy, or as lush as you would like. The other thing, I'm trying to think what else I want to mention with that. So the timing and interval cycles are very important. And less is better. Honestly, sometimes people think, oh yeah, you have to spray them for 30 seconds every 5 minutes. That's way too much. 30 seconds every hour is often enough, especially in like a cannabis operation. Most of the aeroponic cannabis operations are spraying like anywhere from 5 to 30 seconds every 20 minutes to an hour. So it's a very long interval in between. It's a very short hydration cycle. It's a very short amount of time that the spray is on, is what I'm trying to tell you. So trying to simplify the language a little bit so I don't lose anybody. So so the duration and the cycling is very important for preventing problems. So do keep an eye on that as well. And there will be recommendations with any system that you use, and I'll give you recommendations as we go for any system that I show you. Hazard 1, plant diseases, we talked about that. Pythium root rot, we talked about that. Hazard 2, you know what, let me pull this one back over here, okay. Hazard 3, freezing temp regulation. Basically, I don't want to go too much into this, but plants can survive more than you think they can. If you're growing outdoors, let me see, there was a mention of this. Who was this? Oh, Cloud System, yeah. Newcomer to hydroponics, wondering if he's going to work, set up an outdoor sealed environment for hydroponics. Okay, here's what I want to say about that Cloud System, is that a few years ago, I ran some experiments where it's going to sound a little crazy, but I built a geodesic dome in the backyard here. I have a picture of it actually. And the whole idea of doing this, it was done in the winter time, is that I wanted to set up an aeroponic system in an outdoor greenhouse environment subject to very cold temperatures. I'm in Pennsylvania. Very cold temperatures, and I wanted to see what would happen. And then I wanted to do anything and everything that I needed to keep those plants alive over the winter. And I did keep, well, a handful. I kept a handful of them alive. But what I can tell you is that they can definitely survive more cold snaps than you'd think, but they can't freeze. But as long as you can, with certain plants, as long as you keep that temperature just above that freezing point, they can survive. It depends on the plant. It depends on a lot of things, but you can do it. Now let me show you something. Let me see okay. So let me go back up here. Root rot, yeah. No audio, I'm told. Okay, audio went out again. Son of a gun. I have no idea where it dropped off. Yeah, that's fun. Let's see. Photos. I was on photos. I still see audio. Okay, bear with me a second again. I lost that audio again on the photos. Let me just try it again. Give me like 10 seconds. Ah, there's why. You know why? Okay, I just discovered what the problem is. It's user error. You know who the user is? Me. You know what the error was? Stupidity. I was, yeah, I had my microphone all the way at the top and I kept clicking it off, thinking it was a photo. It wasn't. It was the mic. Sorry about that. Okay. So, jeez, what an adventure. Transition. There we go. All right. We have audio and a dome. Wow. What a day. Okay. So I don't know where this got cut off before, but this was the experiment to find out how cold plants could take it. And this was the dome that I built outside here that got down into the 30s here in Pennsylvania. And then I just scrambled to find every possible way of keeping it warm enough that it was above freezing so that the plants would survive. And they did. A lot of them did. Okay. Some of them did. But mostly what was important was I learned, how far you could push these things and would a hydroponic system or an aeroponic system perform in a really cold environment like this, and would it survive, and would the plant survive? And the answer is yes, to all of it. Everything performed really well, and this was cobbled together. This thing was very, very cobbled together, but it got the job done, absolutely. So it can be done, and it wasn't actually all that difficult. I'll go over some of that in other videos if you like. Tell me what you want to know about. Let's see here. Let me show you just inside the dome real quick, just for, I'm in this picture. I'm not trying to show me, but I just happen to be in it. But if you look at the setup there, that was the aeroponic barrel on the left there, 50 gallon barrel was set up in there. And in the daytime, it was really nice inside that dome. It got very warm. Even in the middle of the winter, it got up into the 60s and 70s in that dome during the daytime. So it was interesting. It was a really interesting experiment. And then I tried to keep it warm using a variety of different solar technologies. Solar would heat up water, a big barrel of water. And that sort of worked, not great, but it worked enough to keep them alive. Yeah. And let's see, this is inside the dome. Yeah, just looking at how it's constructed. Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot more I can show you with the dome. But anyway, that was the grand experiment to figure out if it was possible to do this outdoors. So to answer that question there, yes, you can do it, but it does take some extra effort if you want to grow outdoors. So let's show you. Let me see here. What else I can show you? Branching close-ups. Okay, so then. Okay, so when I show you this high pressure system in 2 weeks, one of the things I'm going to show you is this control panel. This is actually a computerized control panel, touch panel, to control this entire system. This is getting way too elaborate. I don't really want to go over this too much, but that's the kind of system that we'll be talking about in the future, as much or as little as you want. But these are the types of things that have been going on here for the last few years. And I'm just mentioning that to give you guys some ideas about things that you may want to talk about, so you can let me know. Okay, lack of oversight, hazard number 4. Basically, you got to keep an eye on things. Anytime you're growing hydroponically, it doesn't matter really how automated the system is. And I'll say this about my own systems as well. No matter how automated it is, how great it is, how well thought through it is, and how much belief you hold in it that it's going to do the job 24/7, 365, it won't. Something will fail. When it does, it's really important to, if you can, to have some redundancy built into the system, because a hydroponics or aeroponics system left alone for even several hours could mean the end of your crop. And that's kind of disheartening, especially when you've put several months into a grow and you want to harvest, and you might have a lot of money on the line, you might have a lot of time on the line, and you don't want it to go down. So you need to be checking it. Automation buys you some leeway, it buys you some buffer time, but it doesn't buy you a guarantee. So keep checking on it. Even with all the automation, I still check on these plants behind me on the green wall once a day. at least, sometimes several times a day, but at least once a day. Check in on your plants. That's not too much to ask. And you will avoid a lot of problems that way. And by checking once a day, you also tend to catch problems, interestingly, before they happen. You'll hear strange sounds, you'll see water from a strange place, or things will happen. You'll notice that. Things will happen that will cue you in that it's time to make a change or time to make an adjustment to the system. All right, so do check in on it. That's hazard number 4. 5, we'll go through these quickly now so we can end this in under an hour. Sorry to hold you guys here, but I just wanted to get through these for you because I know these are helpful for you, seriously. Hazard 5, clogging and blockages. Yes, any tubing that you use in your system, 1/4-inch tubing, any kind of tubing really, should have a little piece of material like gauze or an actual plastic filter on it of some sort to prevent that root matter and leaf matter and debris from entering into the system and stopping either the pump or creating a clog of some kind. And roots are usually what does that. The roots like to go everywhere, and they like to climb into the motors. They climb into everything if you let them. So you need a little protection on the ends of your tubes inside the grow chamber is what I'm referring to, so that you don't have those problems with the clogging. And also in your nutrient tank, you want to have a filter so that you don't pick up any debris that might be at the bottom of the nutrient tank as well. So just use a little filter on each inlet. Anywhere water is going into a tube or nutrient solution is going into a tube, you should have a filter on it. Okay? Let's see here. System leakage. Oh, yeah, let me tell you, swimming pools in your basement, in your grow tent, not fun. So a couple weeks ago, I come down here and the system had just been set up. It was in the tent to my left. I've shown you this in videos before. It was that tent. And I come down in the morning and there are like 2 inches of water on the bottom of the tent, like seriously, like a swimming pool. It was holding it really well. And I was pretty impressed with the ability of that liner in the bottom of the tent to actually hold the water. But what had happened was one of the tubes came loose and all of the nutrient solution was pumped out very efficiently into the bottom of the grow tent. So then I used the same pump to pump it back. But I got to it in time, fortunately. The plant was fine. But sometimes it happens and the plant will not be fine. So the way you avoid that is make sure that if you're using quick connections, that they're very solid, that you push those tubes all the way, any kind of quick connection, push that tube all the way into it. And it needs to go farther than you think it will, and then it's sealed. And then, of course, to put the little blue or green plastic clip on it to hold it so that it won't just get accidentally yanked out, which is, I think, what happened. I think not to blame the cats, but I think one of the cats got one of the tubes and pulled it out because I didn't have one of those little locks on it. And I should have. There you go. So that's how you can avoid that sort of scenario. And the last thing I want to talk about is hazard number 7, lack of oxygen or ventilation, which is a big problem. Plants release humidity, release water through their leaves, transpiration. And that humidity will quickly fill your grow space. And down here, like in this grow space here, I have a fan not only on the tent, but there's also a fan leading out of this room to the outside, venting to the outside. And fresh air, there's a fresh air vent coming in. So I'm always getting fresh air into this room, and then I'm always getting fresh air from the room through the tent, so that transpiration can be allowed to happen, because those plants need to continue to do that. You need to keep the humidity level correct, or you won't get the maximum growth. And that becomes particularly important with a cannabis grow. Anywhere where you have tomatoes, anywhere where you have a lot of humidity being released by those plants, you really need to control that. And you do that through fans. And the fans are completely automated. It's really easy peasy. The fans that I can show you in another video, they have a controller on them that will start the fan either when the humidity gets too high or when it gets too low, when the temperature gets too high or too low, or at a certain time of day. You can do it any way you want, and you can get this controller to run that fan automatically for you. And it works flawlessly. It's great. I've never had a problem with them. So you do need to control that airflow. It's not a rumor. And also, I have here lack of oxygen ventilation, do not overwater plants. Oh no, I covered that in the timing cycles. Yeah. So yeah, I think that is basically all I really had for you today. And we're just under an hour. So for the last few minutes here, what I'd like to do is just show you what I've got growing on the green wall back here. And hopefully I will have audio. Now, I'm not going to have my normal audio. I'm going to be yelling at you from the green wall, and my voice is going to be lower. But you'll have the video. So hold on, bear with me 1 second. Let me grab the camera. All right, so we have, yep, we still have audio. Good, I'll just take you on a little tour here. So we have some other types of micro tomatoes coming in here. These are not, oops, hold on, let me switch back over to, 1 second here. Here we go. These are the microtoms over here. This is another micro variety that we're trying out, and they are just starting to come in. I think they should, yeah, they're just starting to turn. We have a couple turning red here. So by next week, we should be able to try these ones out. And these have been growing for about 2 months now, and they are looking brilliant. So I'll give you an update next week on those. All right, let's move over to some basil. This is red Thai basil. Just getting started. Just getting started. And then more, it's a different tomato variety. And yet another tomato variety. And some more peppers. And then, of course, oh yeah, plenty more hot pepper. Well, see, I needed these hot peppers for 4th of July. I have to make more of that salsa. Yeah. Yeah, they are. Oh, yeah, they're so beautiful. Wow. Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they look really good. They look really good. I'm really excited about those. So, all right. So that is what I have for this week. Thank you, everybody, for joining me again, and thank you for your continued patience. Look at you guys. You guys are awesome. Look at this cloud system. Nice build. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. 90. God, I gotta read all these. Get to know second before. Nice. All right, you guys are into this. Cool. So I'm really excited to show you these demonstrations in 2 weeks. Now, next week I'm taking a day off for 4th of July. I've got some family visiting, hopefully, if they make it. And I want to take a day off next Wednesday, and you guys probably do too. So in 2 weeks from today, I'll have the demonstration, and we'll be doing all the high pressure stuff, and we're going to play around with some tech, and hopefully get in some trouble and make a big mess right here on camera. So I love it. The bigger the mess, the happier I am. And I'm also going to show you some very secret photos that I have not shared on YouTube before. And they are this equipment being used to grow cannabis. Not here, unfortunately, but growing it in a place where you're allowed to grow it. And we're going to show you how it's used, how it can be set up, what sort of equipment is available, some new techniques. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. We're going to demonstrate it right here on camera. So stick around for that in 2 weeks. I'm also going to do my best to, I'm going to try and demonstrate these things with a different lighting setup and so forth. So you may not see me in front of the normal studio next time. I may set up something a little bit special and a little weird looking, a little more like a studio setup, because in order to see the spray, you need to have it backlit. And I can't do that right here, but I can do that somewhere else. So I'll figure it out. I'll get it set up, and it'll be a really good show for you. But again, in the comments, let me know what you wanna cover, and I'll make it happen right here on camera the best that I can for you. So until then, have an amazing 4th of July. Oh, and if you haven't checked out the tomatillo salsa video on YouTube that I just put out, check it out. It uses these peppers, right? And it's a fresh tomatillo pineapple salsa that I put out just for people who bought these gardens to make for 4th of July. And it's really, really good. And it's a fun video, and the peppers are amazing. And yeah, so that's 4th of July. And then, yeah, so enjoy yourselves, stay safe, and I will see you all in 2 weeks. Go grow something. Thank you for joining. Don't forget to hit the like button. Do tell your friends to subscribe. Spread the word, and let's get growing. Talk to you soon.